So what are the perspective with which you can see the management? What are the levels in the management? What are the characteristics of a management? And what are the objectives when you are managing people and getting the work done from people? What is the main objective? So we had talked about the objectives. We have talked about the levels. We have talked about the functions of management, which your first book is going to be comprised of. That is planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling. But all these things are not possible unless the essence of management is there, that is coordination. So it is like a thread in the garland where the flowers are the functions, and all this coordination is going to connect all these flowers or these functions. So coordination is very important. After talking about management, we had talked about the principles of management. You cannot run a company properly unless you are a good manager. And who is going to be a good manager? Who is well versed with the techniques and the principles of management, and he's applying it. The more the person is applying, the more experience he is becoming, the better manager and efficient manager he is becoming. I think whenever the word efficient is used, you understand that it is efficient means optimum utilization of resources. And that is what is required in every business. Nobody wants wastage. So that's very important. So we had talked about the principles which were given by our fathers of management, the father of general management, administration, that is Henry Fayol, and the principles and techniques for which F.W. Taylor was being known. So we have talked about the techniques given by Taylor, and we have talked about the different perceptions. One is talking about administration, general administration. Another one is talking about factory management. So there was a very clear, demarcated, thought process of both the fathers of management. Now, then we had started with the chapter business environment. And in business environment, I have told you that what is the definition of business environment. We had said that business environment is anything. It is the sum total of, individuals, and it is going to be anything which is surrounding the organization. Outside the organization, whatever is there, that will be termed as business environment. That is, it is such a big concept that if you take out organization from the universe, whatever is left is known as business environment. So I want this concept to go into your mind very clearly, children, that anything and everything which is outside the business enterprise or organization, anything which is surrounding the business is known as business environment. We had also talked about the proper definition which is to be given when it is being asked. That is, business environment is the sum total of what has to be totaled. Individuals, institutions, and other forces like social dimensions, economic dimension, political dimensions, all these dimensions, all the type of institutions, all the type of individuals, in totality, when we take them, the sum total, can you see this word, the sum total of what? Individuals, institutions, and forces. Forces, we mean to say all the specific and general forces that are outside the control of a business enterprise that may affect the performance of the enterprise will be termed its business environment. A diagram was being shown to you. We see this is the firm, and anything which is outside the firm, anything for that matter, will be termed as environment. We had also given that why we have taken these two diagrams, because this is constituting of the direct impact they're going to have, and these are the general factors which are going to have an impact on the business directly or indirectly. So in totality, all this comprise plus this will be comprising the business environment. So what is business environment, children? Definition was, it is the sum total of all the individuals, institutions, all the forces like political, economical, technological, social, and which is outside the control of the business but has an impact on the business is known as business environment. When we have talked about business environment, we need to know more about it. And when I said this, how huge it is, I told you that if we take the universe in totality and we subtract from it the subset is of the organization. From the whole universe, you subtract the organization, then what is going to be left is going to be the business environment. So you can say this also, that your universe total minus the organization will comprise the business environment, right? Then we had talked of the features of business environment. So there were various features which will help you identify. Now, when the question comes in the case studies, also they say there are certain things, certain pointers which you need to remember, children, whenever you are going to identify a feature. So these are the things which are there, which gives the identity to the business environment. How you are going to identify that this is a part of business environment or this constitutes business environment. So what are the features? They were totality of external forces, specific and general forces, interrelatedness is there, dynamism is there, uncertainty is there, and complexity and relativity is there. When we say this, let's take up what points were being covered yesterday. Today, I want you to be very attentive because maybe I'll be asking few questions from you. Okay. Before I proceed to the features of business environment, I would also like to tell you today we are going to talk about the project which is to be made on the basis of business environment. So the children who are interested to make the project on business environment, they need to listen carefully, and everybody has to listen carefully. Never know who is going. You might take a very interesting topic, right? Let's come back to the features of business environment, children. The first feature is totality. Total means sum total. They say that business environment is a totality concept, an aggregator. An aggregator, when you mean, aggregator means sum total, bringing all the things together. So they say that business environment is not something which is, in individual, or it is to be studied individually. It's not a concept. It's a very huge aggregative concept. So when you're talking about the totality, you have to talk about the sum total of all the things. All the things means what? Anything which is external to the organization, it is that, or you may say that it is aggregative in nature. All the things which are outside the company, outside the enterprise, outside the organization, and which is going to have an impact on the company will be termed as business environment. So it is total in nature. It is the sum total of all the things which are outside or external to the firm. And when we take that total together, that will be business environment. That is the first feature or identity of business environment. Fine. First is totality. The second point was specific and general forces. You should be very clearly knowing about this, children. What are specific forces and what are general forces? Specific forces are those forces which are going to have a direct impact on the business. Investors, customers, competitors, suppliers. Any one of them, if they will withdraw their support to the business is going to be very badly affected. Investors, if they are withdrawing their shares, they are not buying the shares, they are withdrawing the shares and they're selling in the market, and it is happening in large extent, the business is going to suffer, the goodwill is going to be impacted adversely. Customers, very important. If the customers, they are not happy and they withdraw their support, they reduce the demand of the product, immediately the business is going to be negatively affected. It is not going to be the sales are going to reduce. If the sales are going to be less, the profit level is going to be less. If the competitors are going to come into the market, there is going to be competition is going to be there. You need to play very hard and spend a lot of money on marketing. Because now it's a warning coming to you that the competitors are there in the market. If the suppliers are not supplying the raw material in time, the production will be affected. So there is a direct impact, immediate impact, which of what? Specific forces. So what comprises specific forces? Investors, customers, competitors, suppliers. These are all specific forces. And what are specific forces? Which affect the business directly. And then business environment is not only made up of these specific forces which make the inner circle, but there is an outer circle which comprises of general forces. Now, what do you mean by general forces, children? It means social, political, legal, technological, and economical. We call it as a SLEPT analysis or pestle analysis also. SLEPT, SLEPT, social, legal, economic, political, technological. Pestle analysis, PESTL. Political, economical, social, technological, legal. So we call it as pestle analysis or SLEPT analysis also. So this is what we do, actually what we talk about the dimension when we talk of. These are the general forces. Any change for that matter in the society, in politics, in laws, in technology, in economy, interest rate, bank rates, inflation, all these are going to have an impact on the business. It might be direct, it might be indirect, but there is going to be an impact. So what we say, the second feature was that business environment comprises of two types of forces, specific forces and general forces. We may also say direct forces and indirect forces. Direct, which have the direct impact on the business, and indirect, which have indirect impact on the business. The third feature was, we have talked about these forces. The third feature was interrelatedness. Now, why does we say interrelated? Means there is a chain between the two. If anything is done in one, will have an impact on other. So we had done the examples. We said that you see this example, it was being told to you and explained to you, that if there is a change in technology, it is going to lead to unemployment. So they say technological environment has led to a change in economic environment. So they say these different elements, different parts of business environment, they are closely related. A change in one will lead to change in another. So they say that if the people's preferences, lifestyle is changing, it is going to have an impact on, say, technology or on economy, but the change is coming in society, social trends, thought of the people. So we say that the different elements means we talk about social, political, legal, technological. So these elements are closely related to each other. We took the example of a working woman, which has increased the business of cosmetics, of fashion, of packed foods, and home appliances. So these are closely related. The change in one women, that social change is coming, but it is bringing change in other dimensions also. So these are all interrelated. You cannot say that one can be isolated from other. Then comes, it is dynamic. So the first three features we talked about, totality, that it is aggregative in nature, specific and general forces which are going to impact the business directly or indirectly. They are interrelated, that is, they are going to be interdependent, or it is going to be closely related. What? The elements of business environment are going to be closely related. Then we said that business environment is dynamic. When we say dynamic, it means that it keeps on changing all the time. It is so volatile. It is one changes there, in social trend changes there. There might be a change in technology, technological change might be there, political change might come. So it is, there is a change. The way the business was being done at the time of your grandfather, it is totally different of what it is being done at your father's time. So there's so much of, difference is there. Why? Because business is dynamic and the environment is more dynamic, and business has to adapt to that dynamism. And I told you, if you're not going to adapt the newer things, you will become obsolete and outdated. Adaptation is the word, change is the word, because business environment and your environment is changing, and we have to change according to our environment. Then we have talked about uncertainty. We said that business is so uncertain. We don't know what is going to happen in future. So nobody can predict what is going to happen in future. And the business environment itself is so huge, and it is so difficult to predict what is going to happen. Then we had talked about complex. We said business environment because it is comprising of so many factors, so many forces, so many elements. So taking care of all the elements, it is going to be very difficult because it's like a knot being tied by so many threads. It is so confusing. So it is said that business environment is a complex process, and it is going to, why it is said to be complex? Because there are so many factors. All those factors we have talked about, the dimensions of the factors, social, political, legal, economical. There is so much going to be impact of different things that it is not easy to understand and keep an eye on all, everybody, every aspect. It is very difficult to understand all the aspects together. So what can be done? Say, yes, it is complex, sure, because it is made up of so many things, so many things. So what should be done? They said that you can understand the business environment in small, small parts, but not in totality. So you make sure that, yes, this is a very important thing, that, because of comprising of so many elements, it's very complex. And then it was, the last feature was the relativity. We said the business environment is relative, means the business environment is not going to be same for Indians, for Delhiites, or for that matter. So it is going to vary from country to country and from state to state. And an example was being given, the demand for saris is high in India, whereas it is almost negligible in France. Now, today we are going to talk about elements of business environment. Man is not an island, children. We have to have something around us. Otherwise, we would, if there would have been one man on this earth, then the survival would not have been there, and we would not have been there on this earth. The environment, studying the environment and responding to the environment is considered to be very important. Now, there are various elements which comprise business environment, which we have already talked of, but we are going to talk in detail, and this is what you are supposed to make in your project. You have to study every dimension of that particular business which you are going to, identify, and you're going to select, and you have to talk about all these aspects. The business environment comprises of these aspects, these elements, these factors. So the word which is being used for this is elements, dimensions, factors. It means one and the same thing. If in the question it is being asked that identify the elements of business environment or dimensions of business environment or factors of business environment, it is one and the same thing. It is going to be all the factors comprising of social, political, legal, technological, and political. So when you say this, elements or dimensions or factors of business environment, it means all the forces we talked about. When you say about anything which is outside, means outside what is there? The factors, the forces, the institutions which are going to have either direct or indirect influence on the business activities, that is known as, they are known as the dimensions of business environment. Very, very important part, because this is what the business environment is made up of. You have to be very, very clear that what changes are taking place and which category, which dimension, which feature, which factor. So what are these factors? Again, we come up. They are economic environment, social environment, technological environment, political environment, and legal environment. So you should remember these 5 elements of business environment. They are the forces, they are the factors, they are the institutions which have direct or indirect influence on the business organization or business activities, what the business is performing. Now let's start with first environment, and that is economic environment. Now when you see this, children, economic environment, how you are going to identify now what constitutes economic environment? Anything which is happening in the environment which is having an impact on the productivity or economy or the income of the business will be considered as a part of economic environment. So any economic factor, any interest rate, inflations, all these which are having the influence on the business productivity, its profitability, its sales, its production, all these are, then it will be termed as economic. It is going to be part of economic environment. So it is coming from that factor. Now, what are these words which are going to come? Now, what are these factors which are going to make that economic environment? You identify that if there is inflation, if there is increase in price, if the tax rate have increased, if the interest rate have increased, if there is unemployment word coming, talking about economic, fiscal, monetary policies, it means there is a economic change coming. There is a change in the economic environment. So you will be able to identify that if the business is suffering, then what is the reason? So either it is because of inflation which is taking place, or there is high interest rates which are going to be there, because of which the business might be impacted or affected negatively. I'll give you the example. It will make more things clear, right? Or it is unemployment. So these words, the words itself, they belong to economic environment. That is anything, these are the economic factors. These are the economic terminologies. If these terms are coming, that is the business is suffering, people are there is no employment levels are reducing, or the tax rate is increasing. So we say that there is a change in the economic environment. Interest rates are falling or they are rising. Again, it is a change in the economic environment. Now, talking in detail about this economic environment, now let's take up the first example. If the unemployment rate is high, what is going to happen? People will be not, unemployment is there, no money is there, people are not able to earn. If they're not able to earn, they'll not be able to buy the things. So what is going to be affected? The sales are going to be affected. If there are no sales, the production is going to be affected. So the effect has come on the business organization. So if the unemployment rate is high, the word unemployment is coming, and it is going to, yes, it is going to have an impact on the business sales. So it means it is it's a part of economic environment. What else can be there, children? If the interest rates are high, suppose if you talk about, say, the automobile industry is there, and in automobile industries, the rates are going to rise, or you are going to be into construction companies are there, and the interest rates are going to be high. What is going to happen? The people are not going to, because the things are going to become dearer, costly. And if you go to take loans that you want to buy a car, but then the bank says the interest rates have gone up. So you're buying a car or a home is going to become costly. And people will respond in the sense that is going, it is going to take more money out of their pockets. So in the business also, if you're into construction industry, you are going to, everything is going to be, you're taking anything you're taking on loan, the interest rates have gone up, it is going to be most costly. So your increased cost is somewhere going to make a big impact on your working. So it's another example of economic environment. So interest rate word itself is part of economic environment. Unemployment is part of economic environment, because this is how they're having an impact or effect on business working, business activities. Next example is increased tax rate. If tax rates are increased by the government, if tax rates are going to increase, what is going to happen? There is going to be cut in the profits are going to be reduced. You have to pay the tax on the income. Income tax has to be paid. So there is going to be reduction in the profit of the business. Again, it becomes an economic environment. So what is being said is, you need to identify when the case study comes, because it becomes easy to jot down the point for the explanation, children. But when it comes to case study and cracking it out, you have to be very, very careful and very much accustomed with these words. Now, which are those words which are going to make a economic environment? Let's see the words which are there. If competitive words are coming, introduction of competitors, you say it's part of economic environment. There is change in demand. See, if the taste of the people is changing, that's social. But if the demand of the product is changing, that is economic. Change in the price of raw material, price is changing, again, economical part. Business cycles. Now, these words they might be a little, some children might not be knowing about these words. What does the word boom and depression mean? Now, in economics, you'll be very well versed, and these are the words which are going to be frequently being used: boom or depression. Boom period is a positive period where everything is flourishing, everything is positive. We say ki mitti bhi sona banti hai. That is boom period. So you can sell everything, all the market is booming with people buying things and selling things. So that's a boom period when there is the market is brimming with buying and selling. Depression period is when the people are not having that much of money. There is the rupee rate is going down, and the stock market indices are into depression. Stock market means the shares and debentures, their value is going down. So that's a depression period. So a boom and depression, this is how we call it as business cycles, because when you show any kind of in economics, when you show the through bar graphs or through rate diagrams, you show through your graphs, you show boom and depression, the arrows going up, and depression and the arrows going down. So these are known as business cycles. If these words are coming, boom and inflation, it's a part of economic environment. What else? There are a few more examples. Inflation rate, if we talk of, unemployment rate, if we talk of, interest rates, as we have discussed up, GDP is being talked of. So these words are, you should be accustomed with that these are part of economic environment. If there is change in any of these things, there is going to be an impact on the business indirectly or maybe directly somewhere. So there is going to be impact because this is economic environment. So economic environment is what, children? Economic environment is going to be, it is going to be something which is going to have an impact on the business indirectly or in the on the productivity of the business, that is known as, economic, that will constitute economic environment. So these are the words which you will be remembering. This constitutes economic environment. Now let's talk about the second environment, which is social environment. Now when we talk about, talk about the people, we talk about the traditions, we talk about the customs, we talk about some value systems in our society. We are actually talking about social environment. Society's lifestyle changes are taking place. People are becoming, westernized. They are going to malls. People are, there is working women. Their thought process have changed. There are more people, working women in the they are coming into the work areas, and people are now switching on to they are thinking of going into mechanized machine use, and there is people are putting a lot of efforts on girl education. These are all examples of social environment. So what is it? Social environment, when we come to describe it, if you have to write a short note on it, you should know what to write. It is something which describes, it's the environment which describes the characteristics of the society. That is what are the traditions and the customs and the values which are there in the society. So it characterizes the society. It is actually what is going on in the society in general. Talking about the customs, the traditions, the values, the social trends, the society's expectations from the business. So when you talk about these traditions and customs and languages and values and social trends, eating habits, all these things, they are the lifestyles. They all in totality are termed as social environment. Now, how to identify social environment? How can you say that this is a change in a social environment which is having an impact on business? So remember this, children, first. What is social environment? It is something which describes the characteristics of the society, in which the organization, the company exists. So what kind of a characteristics of the society are there? You are going to talk about what kind of customs are going on, what kind of traditions are going on. Now, for example, let's take up these traditions. In India, we have the celebration of Diwali, Eid, Gurpurab, Christmas. All these things are there. All these festivals are there. And what happens when these festivals come? How it becomes a positive thing for business. It is an opportunity for the business. How it is the opportunity for the business, children? They are, you just see there is greeting cards are going to be made, sweets are going to be made. So the manufacturer of sweets or confectionaries or greeting cards or tailoring outlet, you all are going to wear new clothes. You're going to send far places, you're going to send cards. Earlier it used to be, now e-cards are there. So and the people who are making diyas, For them, the business of the years is going to flourish. The people who are dealing in streets, their business is going to flourish. So when you talk about festivals and traditions in India, in the country, or anything which is increasing the productivity of the business because of the traditions and the values and the customs, we say that it is because of social environment. These are the traditions. You also, the word which I said was, it depends upon the, you can define it as values too. Social environment will include values also. Now, when you say values, what makes values? They say, like in business, when you talk about that we are freedom or social justice or equality or national integration, words are being talked of. What do you mean by freedom? See, everybody has a freedom to make a choice. Whatever you buy, nobody is going to force you. You can buy, you can get everything being opened up in the shop, and you say that I don't want to buy this, or I want to buy this, or I don't want to buy this. So it's the freedom, it's the liberty of a social being to either buy or leave it. So freedom of choice, social justice, people being socially responsible towards the society, and equality. Whenever you're giving jobs to the people in your business, you are not using any discrimination, non-discriminatory employment practices, and there is national integration. That is, you are not taking any religion into consideration while selling your things. So these are the words which uh, are going to help you identify a social environment. Now we have talked about, we said that social environment, it is going to include these trends, these traditions, these practices, these values, and these society's expectations. So, what are basically the elements we are talking of? If the words like education system and literacy rate is being talked of, it has to be social environment. They're talking about girl education, they're talking about overall education, of the what type of, how many girls or how many boys are studying. So what is the ratio of education system, or what is the literacy level they're talking of? So it is all, so it is part of social environment. Consumption habits, if you're talking about the eating habits of the people, we were talking about the healthy lifestyles of the people. When we talk of, we are talking about, this is a social thing, this is a social trend, this is the lifestyle which is changing, and this is a social lifestyle. So it becomes a part of social environment. Expectations from the workforce, how they are, from the labor, if you're expecting something, how much is to be produced, and how much a person is going to do. They are workforce, if you are expecting, again, it is a part of workforce, word is coming. Expectations, societies or the business expectations, it is part of social environment. Health consciousness of the consumers, we've already talked of, if these words come, health conscious, dietary habits are coming in, gyms are cropping in, and other eatables, other vegetables are coming in, creeping in. This is all lifestyle of the people or the eating habits of the people. Health consciousness comes under social environment. Quality of life, if this word comes, again, it is part of social environment. So these words, when we talk about girl education, we talk about, mechanized things in the society, if we talk about the standard of living of the people, if we talk about the status of women, all these are part of social environment. I hope you're getting this, children. When the words economic environment and social environment comes, the words which should be clicking in your mind, you should be able to identify that what constitutes, what is the part of economic environment and what is the part of social environment. Fine. Then we had the third type of factor is technological environment. Technological environment, any kind of improvement in technology, new products are coming in, New services, type of services are being provided. You see the educational services providing now. What is this? This is technological environment creeping in. You see, now in schools, we are using technology to give you education. So we are from books, we have gone on to the laptops, phones. So these new methods or techniques which are coming in, they are part of technological environment. Typewriters were used many years before. Now computers are being used. Ordinary cameras have been replaced by digital cameras. Fountain pens replace ball pens, gel pens. So there is a change in technology. You see this earlier. If you ask your parents, they will tell you they used to use these cassette players, CDs. Now pen drives are there. Now this phone, this landline phone, see the type of phones were there, and now the type of phones we are using, the mobile phones. We are very much mobile. It has helped us to become more. The mobility has increased to a large extent. Now these books, they have been gone into Kindle. All these. This is also a technological improvement. So these are the example of technological environment. So anything new which is happening, change in technology is there, we say it is part of technological environment. But what are the words or the examples which we talk about technological environment? New inventions you are speaking of, distribution system these days, online markets have come into being, net banking word is coming, payments are being made by net banking, advertisement which are being done on internet and social medias is being used. These are the examples, these are the words which are going to help you identify the technological environment. They give you the indication that this is a change in technological environment. If this change is not taken into consideration, the business is going to become obsolete very quickly, children, because technology is very dynamic. It keeps on changing. So you have to be very vigilant. The business has to be very vigilant. If there is any invention coming in their business, they should be adapting it as soon as possible. So these were the examples. This is technological environment. Now we come to political environment. Now, what do you mean by political environment, children? Political environment, basically, it is going to include, any policies of the government, ideologies of the parties, types of government, stability of the government, and the attitude of the government towards a particular business. Now, when you say this, political environment, it is going to include political parties and their ideologies. Now, what is the thought process of one party in our country will be different. What is their agenda? What they talk of when they are coming for elections? Their ideology, their thought process. Are they towards the, they want to, they are towards education, or they are towards industrialization, or they are towards banking, or they are towards what? So what is their ideology? And when we talk about the government's ideology, because the government has taken a decision, the type of government, whether a coalition government they're talking of, or a single government, they're talking of single party government, they're talking of stability of government is there. Now, this is very important. Stability of government in the sense that if there is any kind, whether there is war or peace. If you see the example we have taken, it is very difficult to start a business in countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Why? Because political situation is so uncertain. Why will people like to start a business there? If you see in our own country, Kashmir, there the business is not growing, children. Why? Because there is so much of political instability, that there is no peace. So business is going to flourish only where there is, peace and political stability is there. So this is peace. This is a part of political environment. The ideology of the government is part of political environment. Let's talk about the examples of political environment. If it talks about certain elections or changes in the government is there, that the government has changed and they have come up with a new thing, we say that this is actually a political dimension. for the business. Political stability, talking about war or peace is going on, the change in government, whether there is a frequent change in government or it is going to be there stable, or attitude of the government towards the business. I told you attitude means, children, that what is the government thinking? Some governments are going to be towards agriculturists, towards their main aim is towards reducing unemployment and poverty. And some political parties might be thinking of industrialization. Their focus is on more industries. So it depends upon the ideology of the political parties. That is, ideology of political parties is also a political environment part. Attitude of government towards business, whether they are favoring it or not favoring it. If they are the public sector, they are might not be favoring, they might be favoring the private sector. So their attitude towards private sector or technologically driven business is more favorable. So when we say that the government is giving a backing, it means the business is now facing a opportunity from the government, from the political environment, political dimension. It is coming. The nature of relationship of our country with foreign countries. You know this, as our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he is going to different countries and he is talking about good relations with other country. Because of that, our business might flourish. We will have a better trade relations. So our Prime Minister visiting other countries and bringing trade relations, that is a political thing, which will be converted into, a good business relation might lead to increased economy, better economy, which will become, more productivity will be there, and there is going to be the cost is going to be reduced or something. Then it becomes economical. But Prime Minister going there and developing relations with the countries, foreign countries, that becomes political. And talking about, if we talk about any kind of rights and responsibilities of or constitutional rights, we are talking of, again, it becomes a part of political environment. So these are, and if there is any kind, there is, I want to take one very good example, a case study, which is a very famous case study, children, in political environment. There was a time, this is a case study on Coca-Cola. There was a time in 70s when this Coca-Cola company came into India, because there was the government which was there at that time. They were allowing multinational companies to come into India, and they had taken the permit from the government and they had started selling this cold drink into our country. But what happened is the government changed. When the government changed, the government was not in the favor of Coca-Cola staying into our country, any foreign company staying into our country, and Coca-Cola was made to leave, forced to leave our country. Again, the scenario changed. It was in 1989, around 1991, when all the MNCs, the policies changed, the industrial policies, the liberalization took place, privatization took place. Now, again, the multinationals were welcomed back, and Coca-Cola came back again into India. Now it is permanently there, it seems. So this was only because the attitude of the government was different for the MNCs. So in this case, political involvement or political environment played a very big role for the business of Coca-Cola. So business environment of Coca-Cola has a very prominent factor like political dimension, which is having an impact on its, on its growing business or on its squeezing business. So this is political environment. The last one is legal environment. There are certain acts which are being put, children. We have to ensure the business works in that legal environment. It is going to constitute laws and acts, orders, or the decisions which are being made by the government. That is going to be termed as legal environment. Some kinds of acts are being made, like, there might be laws regarding the foreign trade. There might be some laws and acts regarding advertisements. Now you see this. There are Income Tax Act, which is there. We have to follow. Everyone has to follow this. Anyone who is earning an income up to a particular level, they have to pay the tax. Now these are the rules which are being made. These are the judgments which have come. These are the acts which have passed. There are laws that these kind of advertisements or this has to be put up on this saying that no smoking. So this has to be there on the cigarette packs. There are Companies Act which has changed how the company is going to function. So the business is going to take all these acts into consideration, whichever is going to be applicable on them. So that will constitute their legal environment. There are various acts, there are various laws which have been passed by the government, and the business has to ensure that it has to abide by those laws. Now, if you talk about what is the difference between legal and political environment, if we say, political environment is when a particular issue is going to be debated in, that the talks are going on between the country, the talks are going on in the houses, Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, the bill has been proposed, that is political. But the moment it is being converted into, the approval has been given and it has been converted into a law, into an act, then it becomes legal. Now it is enforced. So when it is there in the parliament, when the talks are going on certain things, it is a political issue. It is a part of political environment. But if it has been, the bill has been passed, the laws has been created, the act has been laid down, in that case, it becomes a part of legal environment. So these are the five, these are the acts which you are going to, any kind of an act when they come, it has to be part of legal environment. So these are the, so there are what type of dimensions, children? 5 dimension. I told you can learn it as SLEPT analysis or PESTEL analysis. There can be social, economical, political, technological, and legal dimensions of business environment. Now, see this clipping of a newspaper. Keep an eye on what your child eats. Now, when this clipping came in Hindu, it was people started thinking that what our children are eating, we need to keep an eye on that. It is leading to obesity. You think over and just brush your mind whether you are able to identify which type of dimension it is. The second one is free vaccination for swine flu was inaugurated for people from below poverty line families. Now, which environment is this? Think about. And the third one is now learn Indian languages via iPods and iPhones. I think you must have thought about the answer. Now here comes the answer. Keep an eye on what your child eats. It is for the parents which has come. It is telling the society that you be careful about the child, what your child is eating. So it is a part of social dimension or social environment. Free vaccination for swine flu. Now in our country, when swine flu was there, when dengue was there was, when polio was there, the government has taken a stand that they are going to distribute, medicine free. People started coming home, and people who are below poverty line, they're always being given free vaccinations. Now, when this is being thought, this is a thought of the government, so it becomes a political dimension. And this, I think, so everybody would have been able to identify. Now, learn Indian languages via iPods and I now learn. So the technology is changing. The language can be learned from iPods and iPhones. So this will be technological environment. A little bit more guesses to be made. Let's see. RBI has increased the repo rate. So when the repo rate is going to, you think of what it is. And this is in this clipping, this newspaper clipping, Environmental Minister, he talks about this thing you have to see, India's green laws. So when you talk about increased repo rate, it means the rate which is being laid down by Reserve Bank of India, making loans and everything cheaper or costlier because there is increase. So it is going to make the things costlier. So it becomes, when you talk about repo rate and RBI you're talking of, it has to be economic environment. And when you're talking about India's green laws, it has to be legal environment. Now, I want you all, this is a thing I'm putting up. You identify the dimension and you're going to WhatsApp the answer to me in chronology 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You read these points and just let me know what is the answer. You can write it in rough and WhatsApp to me, and I'm going to declare the names of the children in my next class who are giving me the right answers. Increase, and I'm giving you just 5 minutes time. After that, the answers, only first 5 entries are going to be taken into consideration. Increase or decrease in the value of rupee is an example of dash. Dash environment includes reduction of bank interest rates on housing loans, inflation rates, etc. The trend of health and fitness has created a demand for products like gyms, mineral water, and food supplements. These are examples of dash environment. Passing of Companies Act 2013 is a component of which environment? And LCD monitors in place of analog monitors is an example of which environment? I'm giving you 1 or 2 minutes, children, and we are winding up to this, and I will be waiting for your answers. And the moment I'm 1 minute more to just read out and write down the answers. Let me see the children who are going to WhatsApp me the correct answers, 5 answers. Correct answers will only be considered, and only first 5 correct answers, their names are going to be declared. Remember, the project has to be made on this, and you will be covering the dimensions. I am going to give you next class. I'm going to give you a certain. In next class, I'm going to give you the tips about the project also. Already many things have been discussed, so you are going to understand it. Okay. Thank you, children. Thank you so much. And God bless you all.